Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toews.
City Council on Tuesday dealt with the fruits of escalation. It dealt with the problem that you have in a city, in a society, when the state and state actors intervene and escalate their power, their use of their strength in a particular area of the marketplace or a particular part of life. And you may have heard there was an uproar again in City Council, and it was on the part of complainants at the end of the session, complainants who are aggrieved, who are angry, upset, demanding action about the police department in Chattanooga. But it's not just that. There is, in the analysis of people such as Isaiah Moore and Marie Mott, our very own Marie Mott, who is an independent social activist and also the host of our 11 o'clock show here on Nuka Radio. The grievance is of the effects of other parts of government that affect and damage the economy. But by that, I mean they effectively work to deny the people at the bottom of the economic ladder, those in the poor districts, from having the same chance of success that you, my listener, might have. And sometimes the analysis of this problem is racist. Some people say, well, we have a racist past, and so these black people and poor people are coincidentally in the same category, and that's because of racism. Well, there is something to that, but the effect of their poverty, well, the cause of their poverty and their lack of prospect is not necessarily racist in intent, but it is progressive in its intent. It is statist in its origins. In other words, the state has the solution, and state policy or federal policy control and effectively are a kind of God. And they have a predestinating force upon society. And so we are going to predestine the change in our city, the growth in our city, how it's organized, where people live, what they do. We're gonna tell people what to do, though they really don't know that it's us who are dictating these things, predestinating these things. It is us in the end, and it's usually a small group of people. Now, you might say, well, there's David Toews, a conspiracist, believing in conspiracies. Well, it's not really a conspiracy. There are well-intentioned people, often in the industrial classes, the wealth classes, who really do control a lot of things when it comes to what's called public policy. Now, there are millions of other people who are prosperous and more or less independent, who can sort of operate prosperously apart from their machinations, apart from their controls, though they can't. Though no one can really escape them. And I'm thinking here right off of the great historical writings of John Taylor Gatto, who is a former school teacher in New York City, and has spent years in the New York Public Library finding out how it is we've come to where we are in the United States today, where we're not free and we're trained to not want to be free, and dependency on the state and the superiority of the state over the people is something we expect, and we want that. And when it doesn't work well, we tend by training to think, well, the solution is simply more of the same. We need to have more government, another program, more funding, more taxation, more credit, right? More fiat money credit in the economy, and we'll be better. And Gatto is just a terrific writer, by the way. He's a good humanist and has a lot to say. Very, very well researched and highly readable books such as Dumbing Us Down, and his magnum opus is The Underground History of American Education. So we have these systems which exist and are not reported on because they're sort of invisible to the press, and they are because they operate as they do with a kind of peremptory claim on society, a peremptory claim upon the economy. We have these dislocations and faults in the economy, and people not seeing these other things operating, they cry out to the city council of Chattanooga, why have you done this? Why are you not doing something to mend these problems, whether it's police beatings and tasings and killings and harassing operations outside their legal authority, or the problem that some people on the progressive left in town have identified as gentrification. Blame that and say, well, what is city council doing about that? Well, I'd say that sometimes city council is simply not qualified to make improvements and can't really solve the problem. Sometimes it just can't, because the problems, say, in the economy are outside the scope of its authority, and one cannot expect that it can fix these problems that come, let's say, from the fact that we have a paper money economy, and we have an artificial demand for construction, which is not real, right? There's no market demand for all these buildings being built in Chattanooga. But we think there's market demand because credit is so inexpensive, right? Credit is free. It's been free for it's been artificially suppressed. The rate of credit has been artificially suppressed for about 30 years and very strongly in the past 10 years. And so we think somehow with interest being cheap that we're all going to be able to pay off our loans. And so we are optimistic we can make this project go. We can make that hotel go. We can make down yon a housing block go, right, with new style condos and the like downtown. We can all make this prosper. So these are, which of course drives up demand for land and pushes out poorer people who have been paying pretty cheap rent in maybe somewhat run down, perhaps unwell maintained houses, but they can afford those places. And now there's a gentrification, which is either building blocks being built or young couples with children, maybe some homeschoolers among them, planning to buy a house, fix it up, live there for 3 or 4 years, and then sell it at a profit. That's what gentrification does, and it elevates and raises the values of lands around it, of houses around it. That's a process which is unstoppable. It can't be stopped by city council, and it can't be really altered by city council. So some of the complaints that the council gets, it has no power to do anything about. And yet some things that it does have power to do about, particularly with the operation of government employees, right? City employees and what they do there, it has very clear power and very clear authority that it is not using, and apparently doesn't really know what to do. There's not a sense, there's not a strong will. There's not on city council someone like Dave Crockett, who had a kind of executive character and who was in that body for 3 terms in the late 80s and early 90s, and got things to happen. Like for example, the city-county school merger. That was something that Dave Crockett brought about, and also the whole so-called visioning process, the kind of AstroTurf, grassroots meetings of what we want in Chattanooga, from which the downtown riverfront development got a lot of its energy, you could say. And that's a kind of Dave Crockett way of doing things. We don't have anybody like that on the city council now, it seems. And so there is, as I look at it, there's a kind of passivity. Now, I might be misjudging what I'm saying because I don't attend the planning meetings, which start at 1:00 on Tuesday. And there are sequences of meetings that run all afternoon, committees and so on. And I just can't get to those because I'm meeting with you, which I'm very glad to do here, David Tulis, on 92.7 Nougat Radio. Make sure you go to my GoFundMe page, GoFundMe David Tulis Show, trying to raise a little payment for the station here. And if you think that I'm providing a great service, do go to GoFundMe.com, the David Tulis page. Now, the main analysis I want to give, if you don't want to say something first, of course, and you can, yeah, you can. It's 800-8949. That's 800-8949. I can always get to what I have to say, okay? But if there's something on your mind now, and you are able to call me, just check your, just say, okay, Google, call studio. That's what I have on my phone, call studio, and that means, of course, the studio, right? There's only one studio in Chattanooga that matters, right? And that's the one at which I'm in which I'm standing right now in front of our board, and that is 800-8949. That's 800-8949. The analysis I would offer is in what I would say, if I could kind of reinterpret what Abdullah, the storekeep, Marie Mott, and the former gang member Isaiah Moore who would like to get into the food truck business, by the way, if you are interested in helping a man who's come up from a very difficult life, he's spent time in prison. He's in his, maybe late 20s. He happens to be African American, but he's repentant of the past. He's lived down his past. Has had jobs since leaving prison, married, and he's a very well-spoken man. So if there's something you might want to do in the way of a local investment, contact me and I can put you in contact for Isaiah Moore, looking for capital to possibly, with his wife, start a food truck. Very interested in that line. So these three spoke. There were a couple others. Mr. Abdullah, if you can go to our Facebook page and see the Nougat Radio Facebook page, you can hear what he has to say. I had a very difficult time making out what his grievance was, but he was very empathetic with what Marie Mott said and seemed to agree with the first of several people who spoke, that being Isaiah Moore. And but together, and maybe even my pitch, I had a 5-minute presentation on the story about Noah McLemore, the Highway 58 shoe seller, shopkeep, who had an abrasive and, I would say, decapitalizing and discouraging and anti-entrepreneurial visit by police officers. This is a story. I still haven't gotten to the bottom of that, but there were, let's say, 4 speakers, if you're going to include me, okay? And the problem that they seem to offer, the grievance they have is the fruit of, I would say, escalation, right? Escalation, where we step up our power, we use our threat and force and menace, right, against the public for their good, right? It's always for the public good. And policing, whether it's the tasing by Hamilton County Sheriff's Deputy of Jeremy Allen Kahn, who perished screaming as he suffered the electrocution by a sheriff's deputy, or the execution by Red Bank Police with the cooperation of Saudi Daisy Police and I believe the Sheriff's Department of Donna Lynn Allen in late July. There we have the presence and the strength. Let's call it the strength of the modern executive state, which we I think accept by dint of not having a better alternative, right? What is the better alternative to the executive state? The executive state, which of course is premised on power and operates on threat, and everything is paid for either by borrowing against the future claims against taxpayers, or by actual taxation, right? We have the federal power with $21 trillion in debt and probably near $200 trillion in political obligations, whether to the payments to the government of Israel, which is, I don't know, $3 billion a year or more, and to guaranteeing student debt and that kind of thing. There's so many obligations that are claimed, which I would say are not. They're not debt notes, okay? They're not notes. They're not promissory notes to pay in the nature of a treasury bill or treasury bond. There's sort of political promises out there that whole industries, whole countries have grown up to expect as sort of their birthright. The American taxpayer funding, doing a lot of the funding during in tax time, but much of that just done by borrowing, right? Borrowing as against the future anticipated revenues of people who voluntarily file their tax returns every year and paying quarterly. So the problem is intervention, or we could say escalation. Escalation and intervention are two concepts, and they both have the same effect, that we are going to tell you what the problem is, and we're going to tell you what the answer is, right? If you have crime, the problem is a centralized policing machinery, a bureaucracy, an occupational army. Effectively is what we have. We have an army of occupation that has a tentative and tenuous connection with city government. Now that's something that Mayor Andy Burke would probably like me to say, because generally I say just the opposite. I say no, it isn't just tenuous and it's not just tentative. It is direct under your authority as the mayor to control what happens in the police department. You can order the police chiefs to, within 6 months, determine what the proper change of uniform should be in the direction of business suits. And that I think police officers should not wear military clothes. They should not have heavy webbed belts with weapons on them. They should be largely disarmed. And if they have respect in society, it be because they represent the law. And most people, you're going to have a few non-compliant people, and you're going to have a few scofflaws. But most people don't need to be threatened with a gun. Okay, and even though the cop's gun is on his hip and his taser's on the other hip, and his mace is nearby, and his cuffs are nearby, and his pepper spray is nearby, all within a momentary reach, and he can immediately call for backup. If you have a man suffering from a stroke in the car, you can call for backup and have a standoff. Right, you can do that with your automatic pressing the button on the little speakerphone on your lapel. There's always backup for help on dangerous situations like that. And these are escalated. This is an escalated situation. This is an escalation of a function which really belongs to the people. Peacekeeping and policing have always been in American history something that belonged to the people. And only in the late 1800s, in the progressive era, did we have the centralization. Of course, in Chattanooga, the policing function began before the war to prevent Southern independence. But I must say I'm disappointed when I searched for the slave catching part of that history. It's not in the only book I could find in the public library. That whole part of the rationale for the Chattanooga Police Department's founding is not there. So either there is no rationale in slavery, or because there wasn't any connection, or it's just been scrubbed out of the narrative and is not available by that means. Right, that volume is not. Is a kind of hagiographic treatment, right? A treatment that makes it all look good and clean and pure, not connected with the evils of a slave society. So the question is intervention and de-escalation. De-escalation is what the people before City Council were calling for. 800-8949, 800-8949. That's what they were calling for. De-escalation in policing, which is to say the end of the military approach, the end of the armed threat. And I would say I've addressed City Council in the past on the necessity of ending Title 55 abuse, which is effectively extortion. When an officer uses his power outside of his lawful authority, outside of the statute, that is called oppression, and we have an oppression statute in Tennessee, which is very good, and it's also called extortion. And it could fall under the Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, which is the federal statute, as well as that, and also under the federal civil rights statute. Because if an officer approaches you under a commercial statute, and you're not a commercial person, and you're not involved in commerce, then he has no authority to touch you. That is what my administrative notice is all about. The police department, as I've told city government, cannot enforce the traffic statutes in Title 55 against people who are not involved in commercial transportation. And go to Nuganomics.com if you want to know what that story is all about. It is a story that is not covered in the press because the press doesn't understand it. Even the smartest people in the press, Dave Flessner and Judy Walton at the paper, they don't get it, or they think that it can't. They're not willing to read it. Okay, they're not willing to read into the issue. But you can at Nuganomics.com. Not a popular website, again, because not a lot of people really matter. They don't really understand the problem, and that website is about lococentric solutions. And I am Dr. Nugacentric, David Tulis. I think we can solve many of our problems ourselves, even though we are, you could say, victim of and prisoner of a national authoritarian credit-based economy. There are things that we can do here, and that is what I want to narrow my analysis down to as much as I can. And the idea of policing being per se, right? Policing as a concept, policing as a bureaucracy, with only 500 sworn officers in Chattanooga. When Sergeant is Lieutenant Jefferson, Wayne Jefferson of the police department, talked about that in his first Citizens Police Academy, highlighting a city in China that he said had 200,000 officers or some gigantic number of police. Making it look like, well, wow, we only have 500. We are really unprotected. We are really in danger. I just almost had to laugh because 500 is an extraordinarily large police force. It's gigantic. We have a gigantic police presence in Chattanooga. But, you know, if we had a de-escalative solution to the abuse problem, we might be able to keep it. Very little of the time the police spend is on real crime. Very little, like I said. I'm going to find out how much, and I'll report back. The name is David Toews, and the number, do call me, 800-8949, 800-8949. Thanks for watching and listening.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
County Sheriff's deputies rescued an 11-year-old who was trapped underwater. Initial reports say a neighbor heard a boy screaming as he was being washed away and down into a drainage pipe. The neighbor waded over and held the boy's head above water till deputies arrived. The rescue a success. The young man was not injured. The Red Cross has shelters open for those displaced by the floods in Hickson and Soddy Daisy. The three are Oak Street Baptist Church, Trinity Lutheran Church on Hickson Pike, and Daisy First Baptist Church on Dayton Pike. And a sinkhole has formed on Highway 111 southbound, causing major headaches for first responders and commuters. The Tennessee Highway Patrol says it has work crews on the scene. They'll continue working until the area is safe. And with the raging floodwater sweeping through Soddy, a kayaker had gone missing. Hamilton County EMS searched the area of Mott Lake Road in Pocket Wilderness. Later, they found the man uninjured. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend the weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Staying cloudy and wet out there for your afternoon. A few more scattered showers and storms will roll in from the south and west. Highs into the lower to middle 70s tonight. Slowly drying out. Still lots of clouds. Lows into the mid 60s. Looking better on Friday. Highs near 80. Mostly sunny and pleasant for the weekend. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's. Home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sorgene Twelve. She's meteorologist at your 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
What the conservatives are asking about the Brett Kavanaugh nomination for the Supreme Court is what kind of opinions does this man write? Where is his perspective on the Constitution? Is he an originalist, as we're told? Does he have a strong view of the Second Amendment? Does he have a strong, I would say, favorable view of the Fourth Amendment? Or does the Fourth Amendment constitute a drag on the festivities in the executive branch? Well, Andrew Napolitano is a believer in natural law. I must say he's not right on everything. And yet he is right on many of the things that he writes about regarding the Constitution. You can read Andrew Napolitano, a former Superior Court or Supreme Court judge in New Jersey. Supreme Court is not the highest court in New Jersey, but it's a mid-level court. And his name is Andrew Napolitano. You can find his work at LewRockwell.com. He says that Kavanaugh is not a strong contender. He is not really for the Constitution. He has a very high view of the executive branch and a low view, a weak view of the protections that the citizen has and has the right to claim and should claim under the Fourth Amendment, right? The Fourth Amendment is your defense against the cop, right? The Fourth Amendment is your defense against illegal searches and seizures, unreasonable interventions in your life, unreasonable escalations of the state's power against you, the Fourth Amendment. Brett Kavanaugh is not a strong defender of same, according to Andrew Napolitano. And another thing to think about is this. Here we have Democrats shrieking under the guise of his alleged sexual misdeeds as a young man. Women are offended by this man. He's clearly a morally vile person. He abused these women, they're alleging, and they're playing effectively identity politics. He is by nature the wrong person for this job. We need to have someone who's democratic and sympathetic, who's liberal in our way of thinking. And what we're not getting, though, in his whole defense as a moral man, right? The conservatives the Republicans, the Christian people are saying, well, here's a moral man, right? He's a good, honorable man with a family. We're seeing his girls in the photographs and his wife. And we because we're so concerned about deflecting these claims, probably false, against him by shrieking Democrats, we're not asking the right question. The right question is not, did he abuse this girl when she was inebriated at a fraternity party at the university? The question is, does he believe in the Constitution, and is he a strict constructionist? Does he believe that the Constitution is a document whose ideas are fixed because the rights that it allegedly protects of the people are fixed as well, and not to be meddled with and not to be tromped upon by the NSA or the FISA court or any other branch or part of the national government? Well, apparently he doesn't have these. He's not a strong conservative. Okay, he's not someone we would support as people who love the Constitution and fear God. Right? If that's the description of who you are, you should not be supporting Brett Kavanaugh. But because it's almost as if the Democrats want him to be in the office because they're trying to stop him with something that's a petty issue, relatively petty issue, and they're not bringing up the whole surveillance question and his whole kowtowing to national government and presidential politics, right? Monarchical politics. Our presidents today are effectively above the law. They are monarchs. They are absolutists, and they have a power superior to the law and superior to any citizen or any group of citizens as envisioned in the Constitution. They are beyond being held to account, right? They're not accountable anymore. Practically speaking, there is no press to hold them to account, and they are not. They and their agencies, whomever's in office, whether it's Trump or Obama, the claims of the executive state against, say, members of the press and many other people are not to be resisted. And Kavanaugh is on that side. He is on the side of making that happen, allowing that to happen. And I don't have the details, so I'm going to just leave it at that. And the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. And so I'll leave it just to say that Saul, one of the few books in my library dedicated to Lucifer is by Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. And yet Alinsky, though he's a leftist, he has a lot of good ideas on how things work, right? In a way, Alinsky uses what I would call the local economy method, local economy arguments to bring about changes that he wants to bring about. I would say, well, if I'm going to use methods like organizing, right? Local organizing, community organizing, right? That's the Alinsky style, the Alinsky concept. It had better be for a better purpose than progressive politics getting leftists and Democrats into office. There's got to be a better, that you can use local economy concepts for that purpose, no doubt. But rather than have more progressives get in office, more people who are who allow for the insurance state, right? The deep state that we have, rather than have the Alinsky local economy method used for that, let's use it to restore our ancient rights, right? Or to push back claims of the state. Wherever people like you, my listener, are working in politics or in your jobs, in your business, the goal should always be a retreat from the whole areas of, the many areas of life in which the state has intruded, right? It has intruded in every area, in health, in the vaccination questions, in education, you name it. The state has some department or some claim in that particular part of what used to be private life, family life, and business. And so we are much of what we have to say in the idea of prosperity is what we can do to limit these claims and make them retreat. Now, we have some blessings ahead when there's a national disaster, right? When the national government files for bankruptcy, we are going to have a lot of scary things to consider. But on the whole, we have to look forward to that day. We have to look forward to the relinquishment of power, right? If Lamanius's quote is true, then we have something to look forward to, because if it's true, but we can unwind the bad things that have been done against us, right? Against our city, Chattanooga, Hamilton County, against you personally in your life, right? Your problems with the IRS, your problems with officials and harassers and bean counters. We want there to be less trouble and more liberty, because in liberty there is hope, right? In liberty there is opportunity, and the Constitution is intended to protect this large area where the state is impotent, right? The state is impotent in many, many areas, and our national government and even our state government, which has its own constitution to obey, governments have rejected the limits and they have moved the boundary. Abortion rights, as they're called, is a moving of the boundary. Roe v. Wade is a moving of the landmark. And the moving of landmarks is something that's prohibited in the Christian scriptures, right? And it's also prohibited in man-made laws as well. Those would be constitutions. And even in written laws that are of lesser value than constitutions would be statute. I'm thinking here of Title 55. Title 55, which is the defense, the scope of operation of policing, touching on the use of the roads, limits that interaction. Title 55, the transportation statute, limits the power of a state actor in a blue uniform to interact with a person on the road if that person has not committed a crime in Title 39, which is the criminal code. That officer does not have authority to stop that person unless that person is in the act of committing a crime that would be in the other code. If that person is not a commercial user, that officer is impotent, meaning he has no power. He cannot approach the citizen. And this is a reform that's going to take some time. And of course, I'll be stepping up in the next 5 years, assuming God gives me life, of course, and breath to maintain this show to the end of the hour, even. I'll be amplifying the claims against these types of activities. Laws are meant to be obeyed. Constitutions are meant to be obeyed. And I would say the most important law to be obeyed would be God's laws, right? Summarized in the Ten Commandments. That's where we have our real protection. The state of Israel, and I had a conversation with Zach McDonough. No, that's not Zach McCullough, who is the chief of investigations of the police department. This was Tuesday outside of the city council meeting room, and we're just having a little chat with him. And I told him everything he said was on the record. So we still had a friendly personal conversation. And I said, Zach, you realize that in the Hanson Melvin case, where your cop got fired because we exposed it and insisted on exposure of this crime against Hanson Melvin, David Campbell's violated the rules of his department as well. We got because we insisted on covering the story. Coverage is advocacy, right? If I write about a person, I'm your advocate, okay? Because if you're being wronged by the good people, you are going to be benefited by David Toulis writing about your story. It always happens when I become interested in somebody's story. Good things happen. It's just one of those things that happens because exposure matters and coverage matters. And that's what the free press is all about. It is a kind of ministry. The press is a prophetic ministry, developed really in the time of the Reformation in Great Britain. Shakespeare was a member of the press. He was a reformer. As was Daniel Defoe, who invented, as we're told in the master's program at UT, Daniel Defoe invented the novel. Jonathan Swift, of course, helped along with Gulliver's Travels and the whole travel literature vein. But anyway, what was I saying? Zach McCullough. I said, Zach, you need to realize that that David Campbell, when he arrested under perjured charges Hanson Melvin and used the word MF in a recording, that's a fireable offense. The city council should make that a firing offense. You use a word like that, use the Lord's name in vain, that should be a firing offense. I don't care how much money was spent on the training of that officer. He's fired. You say that, you're fired, okay? That needs to be what the city council should do. That's an easy one right there. That's an easy thing that they should do, and that word was used against Hanson Melvin. I said, well, that's an act of kidnapping, Zach, and in the Word of God, which is our standard for equity, that is a capital offense. I said, do you not realize how free the state of Israel was, the old Hebrew Republic? Do you not realize how free that was? You kidnapped somebody, that was a capital offense, like murder, like rape, sodomy, those were capital offenses. And that is because it was such a free society. It was so free that no one was there to arrest you. In fact, the Hebrew Republic did not have jails. It knew nothing about prisons. And who today is condemning prisons the most? Well, Beth Foster and people on the progressive left. They have a gospel interest. They're progressive left. They're wrong about numerous things. They're wrong probably on marriage, wrong on the right of black babies unborn to be born. They oppose that birth if the mom doesn't want to have the baby. But still, they are right on numerous things, such as prisons. The progressive left, Beth Foster here in Chattanooga. But I did say that to Zach McCullough, pointing out that there is huge liberty when the right thing is a capital offense, you have liberty. When murder is a capital offense, you don't have a lot of murder, right? If rape is a capital offense, you don't have a lot of rape, right? Those are things that the criminalization of certain acts versus other acts defines your morality, defines your religion, right? Law is simply religion externalized. Which God do you serve? Where is the source of predestination? In a Christian society, there is no predestinating state. It just doesn't exist. And policing is part of that. Policing is part of the predestinarian humanistic concept of organization of man. We're going to organize men and predestine the life of every individual, every compact, every county, every business, every arrangement, every shipping business. Everything is going to be predestined by us. Your children will be owned by our Department of Commerce through the birth certificate system. You all will have to file tax returns, constantly reporting against yourself to the government. Those are all things that are predestinating in their claim, right? It's like, but God, of course, heard. I know you, my listener, don't go to church perhaps, but that is something you were taught in Sunday school, that only God has that power to predestine things. Now, there's been a flap in Saudi Daisy about the principal who has made some comments. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think about that? What is your take on the Jared Hensley story? The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. I did have brief contact yesterday with Tori Brown. She is, I believe, the class president. She's very well spoken. She had a couple little blips to me on Facebook when I said, could you give me an interview about this scandal in Saudi Daisy High School. The man is a vice principal, and he's also the athletic director. And I'm sure by now you've heard what it is that he is said to have said. Well, he did say it. It's on YouTube. It's the kind of an announcement presentation that the communications department arranges to have put out there. And he said, if you really want someone to blame the girls, because they pretty much ruin everything. They ruin the dress code. They ruin Will. Ask Adam. Look at Eve. That's really all you got to get to. Okay, you can really go back to the beginning of time. So it'll be like the rest of your life. Get used to it. Keep your mouth shut. Suck it up and follow the rules. So he's. This is an informal chat. Now the question is are we right to be shrieking in dismay that such a thing could be said? Brian Johnson, the superintendent of the county schools, says these comments are inexcusable. And there's a bit of puffery from him. He says, we find the comments about young women in this video inexcusable, as the sentiments expressed do not align with the values of Hamilton County schools. The situation is under investigation. I mean, you're going to have an investigation, and this investigation could probably go for months, right? And that's how these things, there's always an investigation in which nothing is done, nothing happens, but the public are led to believe that this is being studied by whole groups of people. Deputies and agents and administrators are all considering it and reviewing it and checking it and fact checking it and backward reading it and forward reading it twice backwards in a mirror. We hold our employees, the superintendent says, and our leaders to a high standard. And these comments do not match the high expectations we have for our employees. We seek to prepare all children for success in life after high school and expect our employees to notice this man is an employee, to provide an atmosphere that will empower all children to reach their full potential. So somehow this comment, which is an offhand comment, not very well thought out and a little careless, but and it's not meant to be factual, right? He's not intending it to be a statement of fact. It is an expression, right? There's a difference between making a factual statement and making an expression. The young woman Tori Brown has very well written comment. The one I'm looking at is at Chattanooga.com, by the way. And this is David Toulis, and the number is 800-8949. Call me, 800-8949. She says, I would like to make it clear that I'm not using my position as senior class president to try to influence anyone. I'm simply stating my opinion. Again, a totally needless phrase. I believe that what Hensley said was not well thought out and was taken a little bit too far. With that being said, as a female in Saudi Daisy High School, I have never felt victimized or shamed for who/what I am by Hensley or any other staff member. When I look back at the 4 years I've been here, she says, we have gotten athletic shorts taken away every year because of girls who choose to not only push the boundaries, but to break them completely. I promote comfort, but above that, I promote modesty, she says. Looking at our senior class, the majority of leadership consists of females, class officers, SGA president, beta club, etc. And it has been that way for years. I 100% cannot speak for every female at the high school and tell you their feelings on the issue. But as for your senior class president and vice president, we are 100% behind Hensley, Jared Hensley. While you're reading this, I just encourage everyone to make decisions for themselves. I can see this is what you're not supposed to do. When you hear about this quote, you probably, like me, it just kind of runs off your back. Is that because I'm sexist? Well, that's a silly suggestion. If you have an opinion, then you need to say it and not hide behind your parents. As for the seniors, we are all on the edge of legal adulthood. And if you can't make up your own mind about an issue, then that is ridiculous. Stand up for your own beliefs, or you'll fall into the majority, and I choose not to do that. And so what she's saying is, look, understand that this is a harmless comment, and what you should do is just forget about it, right? It was said, it was silly, people objected to it, and now it's gone. It was yesterday, and we just move on. Clearly, the man said something that he feels humiliated now at having said, because everyone has told him how foolish it was and how sexist and how wicked and how evil it was to make that comment. But it was offhand. It wasn't very well thought out, and it was just sort of free association. And that's all. And what if he had said something against people like me, against Christians, against white men like me? On the other hand, I'm not upset by what he said, and I think people should be big enough just to forgive him and move on, do something better. It's a great high school. Good things are happening there. With him there, by all means. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
County Sheriff's deputies rescued an 11-year-old who was trapped underwater. Initial reports say a neighbor heard a boy screaming as he was being washed away and down into a drainage pipe. The neighbor waded over and held the boy's head above water till deputies arrived. The rescue a success. The young man was not injured. The Red Cross has shelters open for those displaced by the floods in Hickson and Saudi Daisy. The three are Oak Street Baptist Church, Trinity Lutheran Church on Hickson Pike, and Daisy First Baptist Church on Dayton Pike. And a sinkhole has formed on Highway 111 southbound, causing major headaches for first responders and commuters. The Tennessee Highway Patrol says it has work crews on the scene. They'll continue working until the area is safe. And with the raging floodwater sweeping through Saudi, a kayaker had gone missing. Hamilton County EMS searched the area of Mott Lake Road and Pocket Wilderness. Later, they found the man uninjured. Val St. John for Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News Now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Staying cloudy and wet out there for your afternoon. A few more scattered showers and storms will roll in from the south and west. Highs into the lower to middle 70s tonight. Slowly drying out. Still lots of clouds. Lows into the mid 60s. Looking better on Friday. Highs near 80. Mostly sunny and pleasant for the weekend. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's. Home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Sorgene Twelve, Chief Meteorologist, Patrick Ford.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will be able to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Raines Group.
Nooga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nooga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nooga Radio. WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Genovese. 3 hours of dramatic testimony so far from Christine Blasey Ford, the woman who has accused Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexually assaulting her some 36 years ago.
Indelible in the hippocampus is the laughter, the uproarious laughter between the two, and they're having fun at my expense.
And Ford says she's 100% sure it was Brett Kavanaugh who assaulted her.
My greatest fears have been realized, and the reality has been far worse than what I expected. My family and I have been the target of constant harassment and death threats, and I've been called the most vile and hateful names imaginable.
Rachel Mitchell, a veteran sex crimes prosecutor, question for Republicans.
Would it be fair to say at least PJ, Brett Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, Leland Ingram at the time, and yourself were present, and possibly others?
And one other boy. So there were four boys. I just don't know the name of the other boy.
And so far, no witnesses come forward to support Ford's claims against Kavanaugh. He is expected to testify at the hearing later today. President Trump's planned meeting today with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has now been postponed. CBS's Bill Rakoff.
The president postponed that highly anticipated meeting with his embattled Deputy Attorney General to avoid interfering with the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on sex assault allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. White House spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders says the president spoke with Rosenstein today. They now plan to meet next week.
And no firm date has been announced. 2 weeks after Hurricane Florence came ashore, the rivers are just now cresting along the South Carolina coast. Taylor Newell is a spokesperson for the city of Conway, where homes and businesses have suffered some extensive floodwater damage. She's urging residents to waste no time filing for FEMA assistance.
Go ahead, go sign up, fill out your application, and just start the process with them. The quicker you can get that process started, the quicker we can hopefully start to rebuild here in Conway.
A day after a report was released showing there were 80,000 flu-related deaths in the U.S. last year, Surgeon General Jerome Adams is asking why more people are not getting that annual flu vaccine.
The benefits of annual flu vaccination are substantial. Keeps you from getting sick, prevents millions of illnesses and doctor's visits, and again, it's a stimulant to our economy. Most counties across the U.S. report losing millions of dollars each year due to flu-related absences from work.
Adams says the vaccine is available in many forms, including a new nasal spray. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 126 points. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Let's think about customization presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty Mutual customizes your auto insurance so you only pay for what you need. So why aren't more things in life customizable? Why isn't a burger cheaper when you ask for no onions? I don't want them, so shouldn't you deduct the price of the onions, right? Otherwise, I'm paying for the onions, but I'm not receiving any onions. Go to libertymutual.com for a customized quote and you could save.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, equal housing insurer.
Right now is the best time to buy jeans that make you look and feel your best, because Kohl's has your favorite Levi's jeans at the lowest prices of the season. Levi's men's jeans like the classic 505 regular and new favorite fit, the 502 regular taper, start at just $36.99, as well as the Levi's women's 711 skinny and 505 straight, starting at just $35.99. That's right, just $35.99. But these prices are only for a limited time, so get to Kohl's and Kohl's.com today.
Is your wardrobe environmentally friendly? Make way for eco-fashions, an emerging trend in clothing. Items that are made from recycled materials and without the use of any harmful chemicals. How about a jacket made from pineapple leaves and leather tanned with olive extract instead of harmful chemicals? There are now shoes made from plastics recovered from the ocean. Belts made from old bottle caps. With millennials the target of most fashion companies, more companies are now working to be eco-responsible. Amazon has opened a new type of store in New York City called 4-Star. It's a retail outlet that specializes in products that get top ratings from its online customers. The store sells everything from electronics to small appliances, toys, books, and games. The common thread, at least a 4-star rating from shoppers who have purchased the items. It's the latest concept store from Amazon, which also has Amazon Go groceries and Amazon books. Jim Shenevy, CBS News.
I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. America.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
5 Brainerd High School students were rushed to the hospital after ingesting what they're calling an unknown substance and suffering from serious side effects. They're now listed in stable condition. The school was placed on soft lockdown yesterday amid flooding. Canine units were called in to sniff out backpacks to see if there were narcotics. Unconfirmed reports say the substance was ingested in pill form. In Saudi Daisy, 3 men tried to rescue an elderly woman who was swept away. Alan Lewis, owner of a tree service, says he tried to rescue the woman when he spotted her floating on her back. 3 men held her above water, but they weakened. The 3 men almost became victims themselves. A similar story in Saudi Daisy, where an 11-year-old boy was sucked into a culvert into a drainage pipe. A neighbor held his head above water before deputies arrived and pulled them out. Hamilton County schools were closed down due to flooding. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Staying cloudy and wet out there for your afternoon. A few more scattered showers and storms will roll in from the south and west. Highs into the lower to middle 70s tonight. Slowly drying out. Still lots of clouds. Lows into the mid 60s. Looking better on Friday. Highs near 80. Mostly sunny and pleasant for the weekend. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's. Home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Soar Gene 12. She's in your all just after 4.
Radio 92.7.
Listen to that. That's the sound of power and the call of the open road. That's the sound of the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. It's more than a bike. It's an experience and an American icon. The place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. The open road is calling. Answer the call. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the second annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I like to use people and I meet people and they think, oh, and you're on the Hannity station. Oh, I'm so and somehow they think that, well, we're the right-wing station because we have Sean Hannity, who's just a nationalist. And that I'm the classical liberal, that I'm providing the countervailing balance to a conservative ideology, a right-wing ideology, or so they think. But if you're a classical liberal, you are probably going to be either a constitutionalist party backer or a libertarian party backer. But how would you vote for a libertarian in Tennessee? This is a question that we want to ask of a man named Mike Toews. He is a libertarian candidate for governor. But how can you find out about him? When you see his name on the ballot, we'll hear how it is, what it says about him. Not very helpful. There's a regime, you could say, stacked against the libertarians and the constitutionalists who run for office. And we're going to learn why it is that Mike Toews has as one of his main arguments ballot access, which is to say an opening up of a market in politics. Let's just put it that way. Rather than there being a duopoly or a cartel of parties that control the law and the creation of law and the naming of people who write the laws, rather than having a cartel, how about an open market? How about an unintervened in market where all the parties, whether green on the left or conservatives, libertarians, maybe on the right, we could say, can have their names there and their parties given. Mike is 50. He lives on Signal Mountain. He has three daughters. He's a former Air Force Master Sergeant, 23 years in federal government service, and is disabled by a back problem. Mike, I would say that if you have a back problem, if you get elected governor, how would you stand up to, let's say, conservative Republicans who might be your most vigorous enemies in the General Assembly?
Well, I think conservative Republicans don't have a backbone to begin with, so it's not going to be very hard.
Okay. Well, tell my listener what being a libertarian candidate for governor entails. First of all, how is it that you appear Michael Toews on the ballot in Tennessee?
Well, in Tennessee, if you want to run for governor or virtually any party position or any political position, you need to collect 25 signatures. If you want to run as a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent.
25 signatures.
25 signatures. If you want to run as a Libertarian, Green Party, Constitution Party, any third or minor party, you need to collect 33,844 signatures, which is
where does that number come from?
That number comes from 2.5% of the previous governor's total ballots cast.
And certainly this is a very good and healthy statute created by the Republicans and Democrats. And the effect is what? What is the effect of that law?
Well, the effect of the law is it limits the number of parties out in the public arena at any given time. It also limits the ideas. It limits everything that goes on in the political arena. What we have is two ideas competing
And then all other competition is basically squashed by these statutes.
Oh, wait, so what are the two ideas competing?
We have Republicans and we have Democrats.
Those are two ideas?
Those are basically the two ideologies.
Okay, I was just, the reason that struck me as an answer, because in many ways they are just one idea with slightly varying flavors on the edges of the issues.
That's right. You have
Like maybe
authoritarianism.
pro-life. But Republicans are pro-life supposedly, and Democrats are not. So that you might say that's on the edges. There are some distinctions, but you said what now?
Virtually, they're both authoritarianism and they're both for the state.
All right. Well, tell my listener how, from you're a libertarian, Mike Toews, how are Republicans and Democrats alike being authoritarians? Discuss what that means.
Well, they both have their own agenda of what they want to do to control us. Republicans want to be able to control, say, reproductive rights. Democrats want to be able to control the newest wave is controlled capitalism and corporatism. So they both want to control what goes on in the world rather than allow it to be free. So what you end up with is two different state-run organizations. Not state-run organizations, two different organizations that run the state. And instead of allowing us all to be free and make our own choices, they are just pushing these regulations and rules down our throats.
Well, the Republicans have done some good things, Mike Toews. I would say, for example, with the Beacon Center and the ACLU agreeing, there has been a change in the statute passed by Republicans that requires all licensing boards to come under review. And they, in other words, there'll be a sunsetting of commissions such as hair braiding commissions and many others that my listener hasn't heard of. Again, good, because we have a very bad state for occupational licensing. We're one of the worst. And here, a Republican thing is good, reducing the state's claim on the market.
Right, and they are doing that, but they're doing it with push from the Beacon Center and from lawsuits. They're not doing it on their own. They're being forced to do that by libertarian ideas. And I mean, those licensing procedures and those licensing boards, they basically hurt the poor much more than they hurt anybody else who's well off and can afford to have lawyers to navigate that for them.
Are you suggesting that the Republican Party is not really caring about the poor, even though it did pass that, and it also passed in the last session with the help of Mike Carter, Republican, civil asset forfeiture reform, which has almost always targeted poor people who have cash in their financial affairs and carry cash around?
That's absolutely true. I believe that they're being forced into these positions by lawsuits. And, just civil asset forfeiture, that's just an insane idea where you can just go in and take somebody's property without ever convicting them.
All right, so one of your main positions as a candidate for governor, you'll appear, you're telling me, as an independent on the ballot. Are there many people in your position who are showing up as independents? I guess they're Republican, Democrat, and then a long list of independents. How many are there on the
right?
ballot?
I believe this year is the record as far as governor candidates in the state of Tennessee, and the reason being is because in our convention in the springtime, we decided that we were going to run as many libertarian candidates as possible. And we ended up running around 20, with a Tennessee 20 running for independent. So you'll see a Democrat or Republican candidate, and then you'll see 20 some odd independent candidates on the ballot.
Well, what kind of strategy is that, though? You're diluting these other candidates who are all libertarians or party members, are diluting the vote that Mike Toews here on Signal Mountain might get.
That's right.
What kind of strategy is that?
What we're trying to do is bring awareness to this ballot access problem. And basically the state has said we can't have an unlimited or free political parties because it'll cram the ballot full of people. Well, we're just proving that you can put these many people on the ballot. It's not costing any extra money, and it's not costing any extra problems.
Well, what's the reason that it's so important to have the word libertarian next to your name, Mike Toews, on the ballot for governor? Why is that important?
Having the name libertarian is incredibly important. If a Republican goes and puts his name on the ballot and has an R next to it, you automatically have an idea of what he believes. If a Democrat goes and puts his name on the ballot or her name on the ballot with a D next to it, people automatically have an idea of what they believe. If I have to go on the ballot and have an I next to my name, I could be left, I could be right, or I could be absolutely crazy right down the middle. It doesn't matter. People just won't know what that is. So if I can have an L next to my name, people will say, "Oh, libertarian. That's perfect. We understand exactly what that means."
Yeah, we haven't seen the advertisements for Mike Toews, libertarian. We haven't seen ads on TV. We haven't gotten any mailers because he doesn't have much of a budget. We haven't heard announcements about speeches he may have made to the Pachyderm Club or other. But we see the word libertarian there, and so that's a kind of an argument that makes the word libertarian. That one word essentially makes the whole of your argument as to what you believe in.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why ballot access, and this is why ballot access is your main argument, your main point of your campaign.
That is the absolute main point. If people don't know who we are or what we believe, it's hard to get them to vote for you.
Okay, well, tell my listener what you understand libertarian to be. What does the word libertarian mean? What should it mean to my listener if he could see the ballot and the word libertarian by your name, Mike Toews of Signal Mountain?
Libertarian, there's a broad range of libertarians, but in basic, it means smaller government, freer markets. It means basic freedoms upheld, and it also means that we have restraint in spending. You know, Republicans used to be the party of spending restraint and smaller budgets, but they're not that way anymore. They may lower taxes to make us feel good, but they're just raising the spending left and right.
And what about Democrats?
Democrats are, as far as spending goes, they're just outrageous.
Okay. So we don't even talk about Democrats because they're just sort of impossible to really tolerate. Is that why they're wrong on everything?
No, they're not wrong on everything.
Okay.
And there's a lot of areas where we overlap with Democrats too, and a lot of freedoms.
Well, all right, let me ask you that then. How is it? Because I'm finding as a localist and constitutionalist and a Christian that sometimes the left, people on the progressive, pro-abortion, pro-gay marriage left, while I would say as a Christian, they're wrong on those points, or simply just flat out wrong. They do have some positions which are very astute. Can you name one that you would say that a Democrat would hold that is indeed a libertarian position?
I would say medical marijuana, or even marijuana legalization in general. You don't.
What about the drug war?
The drug war too.
That's a bigger category.
You can expand it right up to the drug war, and the drug war is nothing but we treat the drug war as a war, and what we should be doing is treating it as a healthcare crisis. And I think that's where we can align with Democrats. Is that the Democrats would want to treat it as a healthcare crisis as well. As a healthcare crisis, we can create treatment for people who are addicted to drugs, and instead of putting them in the boxes in jail, we can treat them. We can show them the errors of their ways. We can show them how to get around it if they want to. And if drugs were to be more open and more legal, you wouldn't have total unregulated drug supply. So basically, you could have opium now that is laced with anything. If you were to legalize that and to more regulate it, you could have total understanding of what you're actually taking.
This is David Toulis, and we do thank you for tuning into the program here. We are at 92.7 FM and 95.3 FM HD4. Make sure that you take some time out tonight to go to the Starbucks at 10 North. That's 10 North, the Vision Hospitality flats, block of flats in North Shore. That's 10 North. And because what we're doing is having live the Gridiron Gang Show. If it's raining tonight, no doubt it will be inside. Normally it has been outside in the very friendly weather. All of our sports crew there to discuss high school football, though. So there are nice things to do there if you want to just drop in. Also wanted to mention that every Saturday at 10 in the morning, we have our Got You Covered show, Got You Covered Radio with Scott Schrader, talking about home ownership, home repair, everything you may need to know. Your home as an asset or your home as a woe, making it from the woe category to the asset category. That's here at Nougat Radio, 92.7 FM, every Saturday at 10 o'clock. And my name is David Toulis. We're talking with Mike Toews, who is a libertarian. So, and he's telling us what the word libertarian means. Another area where I'd say libertarians might have some affinity with Democrats would be the whole idea of the prison industrial complex. I mentioned Beth Foster a moment ago, Mike, and she's a doctrinaire Democrat, a progressive, and she says, well, there shouldn't be prisons. She's complaining about the operation of Core Civic, the for-profit Nashville-based company that runs prisons and has a financial interest in keeping every cell full in the interest of profit. She's right there. What about the libertarian position on prisons? What does your party say about that?
The libertarian position on prisons is basically, or crime in general, to start with, is that if there's no victim to the crime, there should be no prison time to go along with that. So you can drastically eliminate at least 50% of the criminals in jail right now, or the people that are in jail right now. They're not really criminals.
But you don't have a systematic argument that says prisons should be abolished.
A systematic argument that says prison should be abolished? Probably not. There still are people that may end up being in prison, but right here in the United States, we have the majority of all prisoners in captivity right now, and it's just not tenable. We cannot maintain.
Well, that couldn't be true because we're a free country, Mike.
Free country, that's right. I don't believe that for a second. I think that we think we're free, but we don't understand all the different rules and regulations. I think that everybody walking around the street could probably break 3 or 5 laws a day.
Well, there's a great book by Harvey Silverglate that I've given strict attention to, and it's called 3 Felonies a Day.
Yep, there we go.
And it's a very frightening review. Well, we're hearing also in the news and on the show, the David Tooley Show, Mike Toews, about cash bail reform. What is cash bail? And I'm sure you've heard of reform efforts. California Governor Moonbeam Brown 2 weeks ago now, I think, voted or signed the bill effectively abolishing cash bail in that state and giving local judges some discretion they didn't have before to determine who has to pay that. But what is cash bail and what is cash bail reform in the perspective of the Libertarian Party or movement?
So this is a problem that both the Democrats and the Republicans have instigated, and it's basically increasing bails as things went along, and the bails got stronger.
Well, what is bail, first of all?
Well, bail is if you get arrested for a crime, you're not convicted of that crime, but you still have to put up some money in order to go free again. Otherwise, you stay in jail until your trial. In today's world, trial could be 2 years from now. So you have to stay in jail without even being convicted of a crime at that point. What you can do instead, and what they found, is that this money put up for bail really doesn't help people to get back to the courthouse when it's time. It's really not effective in that situation.
Right. There's no correlation between bail and the return to court, because people who, from what I've read, who don't make it to court have usually some kind of emergency or poverty or commitment they can't break, and so they just miss that hearing. And reforms and also programs in other states that don't have cash bail have the court system helping people to make their hearings. So there are reminder calls. There's kind of social work function of administration in the court system or next to the court system, which says you've got a hearing tomorrow. Will you be able to get there? Could we help you? I mean, even to get people to help people get there to that venue is part of the process of getting people to account for their alleged crimes.
The empathy that you're talking about there is just not in the cash bail bond system.
No, that's right. It is an industry that is, of course, I'm pretty sure it's fractionally leveraged. The bonding companies don't have to write on $1,000 bond. They don't have to write a check for $1,000 to the court, and then they collect the 10% $100 fee from the victim. It's all fractional. There's no financial commitment. So there are a lot of bail bond businesses that are very thinly capitalized, and they just have a promise. Well, we're in that business, and we'll promise to pay you if Joe doesn't make his court case.
I believe that to be true.
Now, what about civil asset forfeiture? That's there. As I mentioned, there's been a Republican reform. It has not been entirely abolished, but Mike Carter and Todd Gardenhire, Todd is the local senator, led that reform. What is the idea? If you were a governor, Mike Toews running for governor as a Libertarian, what would you do with that statute? It is in the statute book, so you'd have to fight it somehow. What would you propose?
Somehow we have to eliminate the statute 100%, not just modify it. The fact, civil asset forfeiture is when the government sues your property or sues somebody's property and takes it over and brings it into their into their budget. And they use that money, they sell that property, they use that money to go out and fund their activities. So what this does is it creates a for-profit policing type situation. And when you have a for-profit policing situation, you're basically going to have more and more of it because they're boosting their budget in the process. So what we can do is just eliminate the statute altogether and make it Fourth Amendment friendly and say, we are not taking your things without a conviction.
We're going to end our highwayman program.
End the highwayman program.
Because that is what it is. Many of the encounters are on the highway, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the amounts are maybe $80 million in Tennessee over a 10-year period, and thousands of cars are seized they're called actions in rem, actions against the thing, as if the thing has committed a crime. the cash has committed a crime. The jewelry in the traveler's travel bag has committed a crime, and so they are accused, charged, and confiscated. And Mike Taves, I think you're right. That is, libertarians have always been against that program, whether it's a mild program like what we have now or in its worst forms. Well, what about the idea of mens rea? Mens rea, you probably know, is the doctrine that you have to prove intent, right? Hillary Clinton was found to not have done anything criminal, according to FBI Director Comey, because she didn't intend to violate the statute. So mens rea in a non-murder case is recognized as applying to her. Most people don't know this, but in Tennessee we have a statute which requires every criminal offense to have alleged at every element of the crime intent. It's called guilty intent. Now, Mike, we have widespread disregard of that law by Neil Pinkston, the district attorney, by Chief David Roddy and all of his officers. Mens rea is never brought up, and the officer charges people not having determined, not having done the research in a particular fact base that there is intent. What would you do as governor if you were elected as an independent on the ballot, but as a libertarian at heart, Mike Taves?
Mens rea seems like it's when in practice, it seems like for the rich or for the people who can afford great lawyers, it's a fantastic thing. For the people that aren't rich or who can't afford lawyers or maybe have to use a public defender, mens rea is pretty much thrown out the window altogether. So what we need to do is we need to create that more and more. What we have is more freedom, more options as far as how we position this mens rea.
David Stewart is talking with Mike Taves, who is a libertarian from Signal Mountain, New Hampshire governor. We'll be back in just a minute. The number to call, do call and ask a question about what are libertarians? What do they believe in? It's 800-8949, 800-8949.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
County Sheriff's deputies rescued an 11-year-old who was trapped underwater. Initial reports say a neighbor heard a boy screaming as he was being washed away and down into a drainage pipe. The neighbor waded over and held the boy's head above water till deputies arrived. The rescue a success. The young man was not injured. The Red Cross has shelters open for those displaced by the floods in Hickson and Soddy Daisy. The three are Oak Street Baptist Church, Trinity Lutheran Church on Hickson Pike, and Daisy First Baptist Church on Dayton Pike. And a sinkhole has formed on Highway 111 southbound, causing major headaches for first responders and commuters. The Tennessee Highway Patrol says it has work crews on the scene. They'll continue working until the area is safe. And with the raging floodwater sweeping through Soddy, a kayaker had gone missing. Hamilton County EMS searched the area of Mott Lake Road and Pocket Wilderness. Later, they found the man uninjured. Val St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Raider Road, Chattanooga.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick and money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships, as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
It's that time of year again. For the 7th year, Wings Over North Georgia Air Show will be Saturday, October the 13th, and Sunday, October the 14th. You'll see some of our government's finest assets flying in the world today. The rarely seen Air Combat F-22 Raptor demo team and the A-10 Warthog will both headline the show, along with Tora, which is the reenactment of Pearl Harbor to include pyrotechnics. Patty Wagstaff and Michael Goulian, both world aerobatic champions, will be showing off their amazing skills, along with numerous other aviation rock stars. On the ground, you'll be able to experience military static displays and even have an opportunity to ride in a Huey or Cobra helicopter. Wings Over North Georgia is an action-packed way to spend a weekend with your family. You can even camp on the grounds. The Richard B. Russell Regional Airport is the place for all the action on October the 13th and the 14th. For tickets and camping reservations, visit wingsovernorthgeorgia.com.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Staying cloudy and wet out there for your afternoon. A few more scattered showers and storms will roll in from the south and west. Highs into the lower to middle 70s tonight. Slowly drying out. Still lots of clouds. Lows into the mid 60s. Looking better on Friday. Highs near 80. Mostly sunny and pleasant for the weekend. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's. Home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Soar Gene 12. She's meteorologist after 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
This is David Toulis. I do thank you for joining me here. We argue the local economy and the free market every day. Love your neighbor and buy local. Love your neighbor, buy local. That's the theme. It implies that there are local solutions that are to be had here and that we don't have to wait for Nashville or Washington or Brussels or any other place where the great ones meet, where the good people have their show. We don't have to wait for them to solve problems here. We can do them ourselves. Look at the idea of traffic enforcement reform, which is a loco-centric concept, which I'm promoting through my transportation administrative notice project. That's a project. It's a 5-year project, and by God's grace, if I'm in good health and alive 5 years from now, we'll see reform in traffic enforcement, where you won't have any more hostile traffic encounters with police. Private people will not deal with police at all. And if a private person is using a car in a bad way, injudiciously or threatening other people, there are other statutes that would deal with that in the nuisance statute. That's where common law nuisances, that's how you deal with drunk drivers. That's how you deal with people who are running away from car accidents and the like. There are grounds for criminal sanctions beyond Title 55. So what I'm proposing now in my mild form, a revision of the traffic arrest protocol, the transportation stop protocol. A single question, ma'am or sir, are you right now engaged in for-profit activity for hire on the road? Are you in business right now in your car? And if the answer is, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just taking my two kids here to banjo practice and then soccer. Clearly, the answer is no, and the officer has no authority at that point to ask anything else because that's a private user of the road. If the person says, well, I've gotten a couple of frozen hearts here taken from a memorial death ward to Vanderbilt for transplant, that's business. And so that person then has to show driver's license, proof of registration, and a proof of insurance and registration, because that's a commercial user bound by Title 55. So Title 55 reform is a bottom-up reform. So I really believe that. And this is David Toulis arguing for local economy. I suggest that near is almost always better than far, small than big, and simple than complex. And down in the details and the footnotes, I'll always argue by threes. If I'm going to write a legal brief, it's going to have three main points. But there'll be many points for sure. But use footnotes and make things fit the three-part rule. Footnotes: personal is better than corporate, physical than abstract. And you can call me now. Ask questions about what's going on in our monologue or dialogue. And by all means, call with a problem. If you have a problem, I'm here to help you solve your problem. And often I do that just by asking the dumb questions, right? I ask you the dumb questions, and people find that when I deal with them, they do better. They get results. They understand things that they didn't understand before. Now, just quickly, we're mentioning the city council, and make sure you go to our Facebook page at Nuga Radio and look at the Marie Mott hectoring of city council. That was Tuesday night, and she has had 9,000 or 10,000 people look at her fabulous presentation. She has a presentation that a genuine God-gifted mayor would have. If she ever runs for mayor, she's got my vote. I must say she is a remarkable person, and we are blessed here at our radio station to have her every weekday at 11 o'clock. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow to Marie Mott, the Marie Mott Show. It's Constitution Friday, Know Your Rights Friday. That's how she frames her labors on the mic. When she's done, I must say sometimes I have to use double duty on cooling the microphone off because it's so warm. It's just so warm from her reverberating tones and arguments. I'm arguing about de-escalation, and in City Hall, City Council, the argument that she's made, and that I've made, is that we need to have a de-escalation of the policing function. And we're making an argument that is that rises from constitutional rights. It arises from a liberty-oriented, maybe libertarian analysis. And I've been a Christian most of my life and been a deacon for 20 years. And so I have you might say, a biblical law of God, equity-oriented, reconstructionist type analysis of our laws and how it is we see reform, how we can make reform in the direction of a more libertarian future, right? A more liberty-oriented and thus more prosperous future. I'm sure people like Mike Toews, who is running for governor here in Tennessee as an independent, but he is a libertarian, a member of the Libertarian Party, former Air Force Master Sergeant. I'm sure he would agree with that. Now, just quickly, because I didn't do this business yesterday, how is it that cops per se, since cops are a major area of grievance by the public as against Mayor Andy Burke, it's a major grievance, and the people who don't know anything about Mayor Burke, he's just not there. He's the well-pressed suit who's not. There's no one in it. That's how people understand Mayor Burke to be. It's not quite fair. I agree it's not fair, but that's just how it appears to them. So they turn with heat and passion to their city council, demanding reform. And I made the statement yesterday, and I didn't really prove it. So let me just say what I mean by the idea that policing is a form of anti-libertarian intervention. It is an intervention against the market. Well, what market is that? Mike, what market would you say policing is an intervention in? Mike Toews.
Policing is an intervention into nearly all markets, personal markets, any business. The gentleman you had from the business on Highway 58 yesterday. I mean, just the fact that they went into his business and wouldn't even allow him to show them their ID. They walked up with their hand on their gun already, gun drawn. I'm sorry, and not even giving him the option to prove who he was. It was automatically that their intention was that he was guilty. Unfortunately, it's for him because he's a man of color, and for me, I might not get the same treatment, and that's an unfortunate situation, and that's a problem with the police.
Well, the market, I would say, to answer the question more, libertarian economic analysis would be the market of personal security. Well, first of all, let me ask you this: Do police have any duty to keep my listeners safe or insecure? Is that their duty, or what is their duty?
Well, I guess back in the day it was to protect and serve, right? But if you look at nearly all crime is a crime from one person to another. A crime that's not against another person, that doesn't hurt somebody if there's no victim, really shouldn't be a crime. So if the crime is hurting one person, shouldn't they be the ones that go through the court system and get the retribution? Now what we do is we have the state go against these people.
The state takes the part of the victim. Right. Well, yes, we're talking with Mike Toews, who's running for governor as an independent, but he's a libertarian. Among many people who are on the ballot this go around for governor, but the market that it intervenes in is personal security. We think somehow the cops are there to protect us ahead of time, but they're not. They can't protect us. They can't prevent crime. They're not able to do that. But they are charged with solving crimes and cleaning up messes, taking reports, taking bodies to the coroner. And getting statements when there's an accident, in commercial accident, they do have authority for that. But beyond that, the market is really how we can keep the peace. That originally is the purpose, keeping the peace among private parties who might get into a fight. So they are there to break up fights. They're there to help carry someone to the hospital if there's an injury. But they are an interventionist. They are an interventionistic threat. They're sort of by design. They're anti-liberty. They are pro-government. They're not about the individual's liberties. They are about the government's authority. They're called law enforcement for a reason. They're there to enforce and to compel the law upon people. And they're also corporate in their nature. They serve city governments. They're military. They're professional. As opposed to private, right? A marketplace is not professional; it's private. All private people in a marketplace acting privately. They may be in business, they may be in corporations, but it's a private operation, and they're not, in a non-cartel sense. They're also civil servants. They have immunities at law. They are effectively sovereign individuals above the law. They're insulated socially and by custom from the common people. They are an elite in a way. They are kind of a priesthood. Getting poetic here, I would say. They kind of a priesthood with it. The sacraments, their sacraments are arrest. That is their sacrament is to arrest people, and that is how they justify themselves, and that is how they market themselves. We have arrested this many people. We've solved this many crimes. Some of that's good and necessary for sure. But what is the libertarian take, Mike Toews, on policing per se? In a libertarian society, would you have police departments organized and serving municipal corporations as we have here in Chattanooga and East Ridge?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talked about private organizations helping each other out and providing services to other people. If you go down to the auto dealerships now, what you see is somebody all night long standing their guard over the vehicles. Police department isn't doing that. If a vehicle was stolen, the police department could come in and investigate it, investigate the crime maybe, but they're not protecting those cars in the lot all day long. Just like they're not protecting our homes all day long. Who protects our home? We have nowadays we have the internet with video, or we have people with guns in their homes, and that's who's protecting them. The police are there after the fact.
Well, all right. So you're saying that my listener should have no expectation of protection by the officer. Just perhaps if the listener was attacked or killed or shot at, someone to help console him and maybe find out who did it. I
don't remember ever personally being protected by the police. I got pulled over once, and they told me they were protecting me for speeding because I might hit a deer. But that was the protection I got.
Are there marketplace solutions which could disestablish or keep back or throw down or make go away police departments, maybe even sheriff's departments? Mike Toews of the Libertarian Party. Well, are there solutions to what they're doing now as a state entity?
I'm fuzzy on the details, but I know there's in Detroit there's a private police organization, and you can sign on to this private police organization. It's almost like a subscription service, and they will police your area for you based on the criteria that they've developed in their contract. So yes, there is a private.
And I mentioned that just last week, Mike Toews. They are, I don't have the name in front of me, but they do not have weapons. But if you have a military background, they hold that against you. Though it could be advantageous because if you have a military background, you tend to be strong and large, and the men they have on their payroll are large, strong-looking men. But it's entirely pacific. In other words, entirely nonviolent.
Right. It's meant to protect and to serve. It's not meant to go in and grab people and throw them into jail.
So a libertarian society would have a largely privatized function of, that would be a crime solution. How would that work if you have a market in criminal solution services? You could have you eventually would have competing companies that would say, well, we can solve your crime first, or we can solve your crime best, or we can solve your crime for the least amount of money. Each making its own pitch as to why one should engage that party. So is that what the libertarian future would hold with rise in technology, Mike Toews?
You could see it with subscription services to home monitoring, to home alarm systems. There's different home alarm companies that are willing to come in for different price rates and do different things for you. The same thing could be held for a police organization or a police-like organization in your area. It could be I want this type of service, or I want this type of service, and we're free to choose.
Right. The number is 800-8949, 800-8949. I find I've not done the interviews to know for sure, but I find it likely, Mike Toews, that the strength of policing is great in many areas, even among sectors in local economy where you think you'd find the least support. And by that I'm talking about Black neighborhoods, African American churches, African American ministers. I think that if I did a survey of Black gospel preachers in Chattanooga, I would find probably universal support for policing per se. Not one minister whose people have been abused over the years by the police function would say, no, we need to do without them. We need to have a private solution. No one would say that. And so they would look at policing as something that can at best be reformed.
Policing has become part of our patriotic footprint, basically our fingerprint. We think that the police department is part of being patriotic if you support the police. And I'm not saying that we should go out and not support the police. What I'm saying is there are other solutions out there than just the one-off government solution.
Right. And here we're talking about conservatives. Republicans are the pro-prison party. They're the pro-police party. Gerald McCormick, the former Senate leader, I believe, Senate leader, he had a blue Bill of Rights where if you smack an officer or do something to an officer, it's much worse criminal penalty than if you did it to an ordinary person. In other words, you have a special, even more immunities and protections for police officers. So the Republicans make it that policing is patriotic. It's part of our freedoms. We have police. We have a police state even. Because we want our freedoms, we have law and order. But as a libertarian, your view of law and order is somehow different from that of a Republican?
Well, I think my view of law and order is that there needs to be a victim to have a crime, and then that victim needs to be restored to his original place instead of the state collecting the punishment, basically, is what's happening now. So if you have a crime that goes on and the police come in and find somebody that's culpable for that crime and they bring them to jail, they serve their time, the person that was victimized is never restored to whole. And what we could do instead is have a common law situation and courts that basically restore the victim to whole, and it would be at the expense of the person who committed the crime.
This is David Toulis. I'm talking with Mike Toews, who is on the ballot as an independent for governor. He's a Signal Mountain resident. His name is Toews. and it's a Dutch name. It's spelled Toews and pronounced Toews. He's a former master sergeant in the Air Force for 23 years. Make sure that you go to Starbucks tonight on North Shore at 10 North Shore. At the Starbucks, we'll be having our Gridiron Gang show starting at 7 o'clock. That's live. Come by for a bagel and a coffee. It probably will be inside tonight since there is a lot of rain going on. And the topic of these local sports experts is high school football. Amazing how grown men know so much about high school football. And this is David Toews here. Not only do I wear old jackets and old bow ties, I don't know the first thing about sports, and I kind of pride myself on that. I know that's not right to do that. It's kind of a fault, but and the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. And caller, you're on the David Toews Show. Thanks for ringing in. What's on your mind?
I'm so happy to hear a libertarian on the air. You know your chances of winning are very slim.
I understand that.
Because you're a libertarian. And I was actually a manager for a libertarian at one time who almost won but didn't, because I don't think people really understand libertarians and the constitutional aspect of libertarians. Have you done anything to try to enlighten Republicans because I think Republicans are more likely to become libertarians than communist Democrats who want the state to do everything. You know, I wouldn't elect a Democrat to collect my trash or pick up my dog turds. They couldn't even do that right. But I mean, have you? And another thing is, and please, as a libertarian, read the Constitution. Now, you probably have, because if you're going to take an oath and you win to obey the Constitution, you really have to know it. So I hope you do know it. I hope you read it. As a military guy, thank you for your service and for defending the Constitution.
So, Mike, you think, Mike, just hold on a second.
Thank you,
Mike. You're suggesting that because he served in the federal military, he provided a service for freedom in the Constitution. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. I suggest, since he's a military guy, he needs to be honored. And I am, you know me, I like a big, strong military. We need to have the biggest, strongest military in the world with the biggest weapons we can find. Peace through strength. So, obviously, yes, he served our country. He helped to fight against the evils of communism and socialism around the world, except I would have preferred to declare war on Cuba and get rid of that piece of trash and anyone that has socialism in our hemisphere. But yeah, I'm suggesting that he's a hero, and I want to thank him for his service for serving in our military. Absolutely.
Thanks for the call, Mike. The number is 800-8949. We're brought to you by Nuganomics.com, the website for the man who matters and the woman who matters. Not very popular because it explains how the deep state works in Tennessee. We do have a deep state. That's a term that has come into common parlance in the past year, and it's a very healthy thing to consider. We have one in Tennessee, and I have my fingertip on the pulse of one large aspect of that, and that is the use of surveillance and the driver's license statute in Title 55 to manage the people and give police and sheriff's deputies easy access to the people, apart from and outside the stronger protections of the state constitution and the prohibition against searches. Right, searches are prohibited, but they are allowed if there is a warrant or if there is probable cause. And Title 55 is how the state bypasses that stricture. We're talking with Mike Toews. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for running me, David.
Running as a libertarian. He is running as an independent, but he is a libertarian on the governor ticket, resident of Signal Mountain. His name is David Toews. Make sure you need any plumbing help, you go to Ruther Pros in North Georgia. They serve all of Chattanooga. A great outfit. David Toews, Nugget Radio, and tune in to the Marie Mott Show at 11 tomorrow. And Nick, guess what we have? Sean Hannity.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
County Sheriff's deputies rescued an 11-year-old who was trapped underwater. Initial reports say a neighbor heard a boy screaming as he was being washed away and down into a drainage pipe. The neighbor waded over and held the